Netflix didn't just change movies, it destroyed an entire industry. Netflix did not just beat Blockbuster, it made Blockbuster a memory, a story we tell our children about a different time. This is a tale of two worlds. One was built of concrete, plastic cases. It was a world of fluorescent lights, late fees. The other was built of code, light. It lived inside wires, on screens. It was a world that never closed. This is the story of a small team with a simple idea. It is also the story of a titan that forgot how to change. It all started with a simple problem, a $5 late fee. That was the spark. In 1997, two entrepreneurs, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph, started a company. They called it Netflix. Their plan was to let people rent DVDs by mail. No stores, no due dates, no late fees. You went online, you picked your movies, and you waited. A few days later, a thin red envelope appeared in your mailbox. It felt personal, it felt modern, it felt like a secret that the rest of the world hadn't figured out yet. It was a small act of defiance against a giant industry. The early days were not glamorous. The team was small. The office was cramped. The work was hard and manual. They packed DVDs into envelopes by hand. They fixed bugs in the website late into the night. Every subscription felt like a major victory. Every cancellation felt like a crisis. Industry experts scoffed at the model. They said it was a niche. They said people enjoyed the experience of browsing a physical store. They said the postal service was too slow. The team heard the doubts, but they also heard from their customers. And their customers loved it. They faced a choice that all small companies face. Do you stay small and safe, or do you swing for the fences? Netflix chose to swing. They introduced a subscription model, one flat monthly fee for unlimited rentals. It was a bold move. It meant betting that people would rent enough movies to make it worthwhile, but not so many that the company went broke mailing them. It was a delicate balance of trust and mathematics. This decision was a turning point. It turned a simple rental service into a relationship. It made Netflix a part of their customers' monthly routine. The red envelope became a symbol. It was a small, recurring moment of joy. It was the promise of a story waiting for you when you got home from work. This human connection was something Blockbuster, with all its size and scale, had lost. Blockbuster was a transaction. You paid, you took, you returned. Netflix felt like a service built for you. The world was changing again. The internet was getting faster. The whispers of a new technology grew louder. Video on demand. The ability to watch a movie instantly, over the web. For Netflix, this was a threat and an opportunity. Their entire business was built on mailing physical discs. A world without discs was a world without their business model. They stood at a crossroads. One path was to perfect the DVD by mail service, to become the best in the world at putting plastic in envelopes. The other path led into the unknown. It was the path of streaming. The choice to stream was an act of corporate courage. It meant building a second business that would actively compete with their first. It meant telling their loyal customers that the red envelopes they loved were not the future. It meant investing millions of dollars in servers, in licensing deals, and in technology that was still in its infancy. Many on the inside were skeptical. Investors were nervous. It seemed like a solution in search of a problem. Why would people want to watch a fuzzy, buffering movie on a small computer screen when they could watch a perfect quality DVD on their television? But the leaders of Netflix saw something else. They saw the future. They knew that technology only gets better. Screens would get bigger. Internet speeds would get faster. Buffering would become a thing of the past. They were not betting on streaming as it was. They were betting on what streaming would become. It was a brave and lonely choice. It meant risking a profitable present for an uncertain future. They began the slow, expensive work of building the infrastructure. They negotiated complex digital rights with movie studios who were just as uncertain as they were. This decision was the moment Netflix chose to be a technology company, not just a media distribution company. It was a fundamental shift in its identity. They were willing to destroy their own successful business before someone else did. This is a rare quality. Most companies cling to what works. They ride the wave until it crashes on the shore. Netflix saw the next wave forming far out at sea and started paddling toward it. The move was costly, it was difficult, and it would prove to be the single most important decision they ever made. They chose to leap. Beat. Yeah. While Netflix was taking a leap of faith, Blockbuster was standing still. The giant was comfortable. It was a global empire with thousands of stores and billions in revenue. From the boardroom, Netflix looked like a gnat, a minor annoyance. Their business model was safe, or so they thought. A significant portion of their profit came from a source their customers hated: late fees. This was their fatal flaw. They were making money by punishing the people who used their service. It was a business model built on friction, not on loyalty. Legend has it that Netflix once offered to be acquired by Blockbuster for a mere $50 million. The Blockbuster executives laughed them out of the room. They saw no future in the mail order business. They saw no threat. They doubled down on their stores. They believed that the physical experience of browsing and the instant gratification of taking a movie home immediately was an unbeatable advantage. They failed to see that their greatest advantage was quickly becoming their greatest liability. The decline was not a sudden collapse. It was a slow, painful erosion, like a coastline giving way to the sea. At first, it was just a few less people on a Friday night. Then, a few stores started to underperform. The red envelopes from Netflix became more common. Then streaming began. People discovered they could watch a movie instantly, without leaving their couch. The trip to Blockbuster started to feel like a chore. The late fees felt like an insult. One by one, customers peeled away. Blockbuster tried to react, but it was too little, too late. They launched their own mail order service. They tried to set up streaming kiosks in their stores, but their heart was not in it. Their entire organization was built around the physical store. Their franchisees were invested in it. To truly embrace the new world would have meant dismantling the old one, and they were not willing to do that. The stores began to close, first in drips, then in a flood. The bright blue and yellow signs were taken down, leaving behind ghost-like outlines on strip malls across the country. The giant had fallen. Netflix did not stop. Defeating Blockbuster was not the end of the race. It was just the first lap. The company looked at the landscape it now dominated and saw a new vulnerability. Its success depended entirely on other companies. It had to pay movie studios and television networks enormous sums to license their content. And those deals were temporary. A hit show could be pulled from the service at any time. Netflix was a powerful distributor, but it was still just a middleman. To secure its future, it had to become a creator. The decision to make its own content was another massive gamble. It was a bet on the scale of the streaming decision. Netflix was a tech company in Silicon Valley. It knew data and algorithms. It did not know how to make television shows. It did not know how to make movies. Hollywood was a closed world, its own rules, its own power players, its own traditions. Netflix walked into that world with a checkbook and a different way of thinking. Their first big move was a $100 million bet on a show called House of Cards. They didn't just buy the show, they ordered 2 full seasons without even seeing a pilot episode. This was unheard of. The old Hollywood system was built on pilots and focus groups. You made 1 episode, you tested it, then you decided whether to move forward. Netflix used its data. It knew that its subscribers liked political thrillers. It knew they liked director David Fincher. It knew they liked actor Kevin Spacey. The data gave them the confidence to make the big bet. Then they did something else that was revolutionary. They released the entire season at once. They broke the weekly schedule that had defined television for half a century. They invented the binge watch. The success of House of Cards, Orange is the New Black. Netflix was no longer just a place to watch old movies. New, exciting, exclusive. It became a studio. Writers, directors, actors. The company began pouring billions of dollars into original content, then tens of billions of dollars. It didn't just rewrite the rules of distribution, it was now rewriting the rules of Hollywood itself. Success attracts competition. The old giants of media had once licensed content to Netflix. They suddenly saw the threat. They had watched a tech company become a global entertainment powerhouse using their own movies and shows. They decided they wanted a piece of the action. Disney, Warner Brothers, NBC Universal, Amazon. They needed their own streaming services. The era of Netflix as the undisputed king was over. The streaming wars had begun. Suddenly, the battlefield was crowded. Each new service launched with its own library of beloved classics. Each also launched expensive new originals. Content that had been on Netflix for years began to disappear. Friends, The Office, Marvel movies. Netflix now had to fight a war on multiple fronts. It had to keep producing a constant stream of hit shows to keep subscribers from leaving. It had to justify its price when cheaper options were available. The fight was no longer about DVDs versus streaming. It was a war for attention. This new pressure forced Netflix to evolve again. The company went deeper into global markets, producing shows in dozens of languages. Europe, Asia, Latin America. A hit could now come from anywhere. Squid Game, South Korea. Money Heist, Spain. The company also had to become more ruthless. Shows were canceled more quickly if the data showed they weren't performing. Budgets were scrutinized. The freewheeling, bet-it-all culture gave way to disciplined calculations. The viewer, in many ways, was the winner. There was more high-quality television than ever, but also fragmentation and fatigue. You needed multiple subscriptions to watch all the shows you wanted. The simple, unified world that Netflix had created was now broken apart again. For Netflix, the challenge was immense. How do you stay essential when your audience has endless choices? How do you keep growing when the market is saturated? The company that had been the disruptor was now the establishment, trying to defend its throne. The story of Netflix and Blockbuster is more than a business case study. It is a parable for our time. It teaches a hard and simple lesson: adapt or become a memory. Blockbuster's failure was not a failure of resources. It was a failure of imagination. They had the stores. They had the money. They had the customers. They lacked the courage to see a different future and the will to build it. They were focused on defending their castle. They didn't notice a new road built right past their gates. Success made them complacent. Complacency is the enemy of survival. Netflix survived by being its own sharpest critic. Innovation isn't a single event. It's a continuous process. Commitment to learning. Commitment to taking risks. Commitment to being willing to fail. Netflix made mistakes. It launched shows that flopped. It faced backlash over price hikes and content decisions. But its core strength has been its ability to learn and keep moving. The business is a perpetual work in progress. It is always in beta. And so, the epic continues to unfold. The streaming wars rage on. New technologies like artificial intelligence, new technologies like virtual reality, they promise to change the landscape once again. The company that killed Blockbuster now faces an army of challengers. The story is not over. It's entering its next chapter. It leaves us with a profound, unsettling question. The next great shift is coming. It always is. When it arrives, will you be the giant, standing still and remembering the good old days? Or will you be the one with the courage to leap into the unknown? This is not just a business story. It's a lesson about innovation, risk-taking, and survival in a fast-changing world. Will Netflix survive the next decade? Subscribe for more legendary business stories and empire-building lessons.